Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. It is Friday, April 28th, 2023. We are presented by BetMGM, folks. Brendan Glasheen, your host today. We're joined by one of our normal Friday guests, and Charlie DiSturco. He's one of our producers as well with our video team at Action Network. And rejoining the party, Action Network senior editor Colin Whitchurch. You find him often on actionnetwork.com in the app. Colin, I must ask, I don't like doing the how are you, good, how are you thing, but I will give you that platform. Great to talk to you again on the podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm happy to be back. I'm like Nelson Cruz over here. You know, you need an old pinch hitter to come off the bench, maybe hit a home run or two. That's my goal here today.
Yeah, you deserve that credit, not like Dallas Braden, for instance, where this isn't a AAA call-up. This is like a legit middle-of-the-order bat that is just waiting for the right time to shine.
We'll just see if I still have it. I might be a little rusty. Okay. But let's go.
All right. Very good. So we've got 14 games on this slate today. As a reminder, we're with you 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. Please rate, review, and subscribe the podcast. Let's dive in. We'll start with best bets. Charlie DiSturco, why don't you go first?
All right, my best bet, heading out to the Dodgers Cardinals. I'm taking the over -115. I'd take that all the way up to 9 at plus money. There's going to be a time where Jack Flaherty finally falls down to earth and is just absolutely battered. He has a double-digit barrel rate and a walk rate that nears 20%. He's putting on a ton of base runners, but he's getting out of jams with double plays or just timely defensive issues or plays with the St. Louis defense. We all know how good they are, but that's not going to happen all season long. His xERA and xFIP is up in the 5.2 range, nearly 2 runs higher than his actual ERA, just to show you how much he's overperforming right now. His expected slugging's a concern, and you know he's got a 242 BABIP, so that number should be up toward the 272-80 mark when you look at Joe Flaherty. The Dodgers offense is capable of getting to Flaherty here. And then on the other side, Dustin May, this is one of the more shocking kind of starts of the season for him, at least for me. He's not striking out batters. He's got a sub 17% strikeout rate, so he's forcing the ball in play. Well, without getting chases and without getting those whiffs, he has a 195 BABIP. So batting average on balls in play, sub 200. That number's going to move up. He has walk issues at times. He's not striking out batters. Expected indicators rank anywhere from the 3.8 to 4.8 range. So there's a lot of negative regression on the horizon for both these pitchers here. It's a mind-numbingly bad number, that 195 BABIP. So I'm thinking the Cardinals get going. I'm thinking the Dodgers get going. The Dodgers bullpen has some clear issues. I think this is a relatively high-scoring game. You could see 4-4 entering the 7th, 8th, and at that point, the over cashes.
All right, game that starts on Apple TV just after 10 Eastern. Are you a believer? I can't remember with this crew of people we have that talk baseball. Are you one of the believers in the baseballs possibly being juiced on Apple TV?
I think the baseballs are kind of juiced all across the board this season. So okay. The amount of overs that we're seeing, and it seems like every time I'm on an over, it goes under, and every time I'm on an under, it goes over. But yeah, I think it's totally feasible that they maybe send a little bit more of a juice ball out in the Apple TV world.
Okay, very good. The other game is Philadelphia, Houston. So if we get to that, we will discuss. Dodgers, one of the better over teams this year in baseball, 15 wins to just 10 losses to the over this year. Colin Whitchurch, your best bet for Friday.
Yeah, my best bet, I'm on the Cubs tonight in Miami against the Marlins at -115. Kind of a rule of thumb for me this season is to bet the Cubs anytime they face a left-handed pitcher. Their offense has been fantastic. Their offense has been fantastic overall, but particularly against lefties. 124 weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitching. Jesus Luzardo is a scary pitcher to fade. I will admit he misses a ton of bats, but he also gives up a lot of contact. He has been BABIP'd a bit, to be fair. He's got a 361 BABIP against, but he's allowing a lot of contact, and he's allowing a lot of contact in the air. His ground ball rate is only around 40% right now on the season. His last 3 starts, he gave up 6 hits or more. In his last 2, he couldn't even get through the 5th inning. So even if he holds up against his Cubs offense, which I think he won't, then you get into the bullpens. The Marlins have a bottom 10 bullpen in all of baseball. The Cubs bullpen is in the top half. Not to mention, the Marlins also used 5 relievers and had to cover 6 innings yesterday against Atlanta with that rain-delayed game. None of the Cubs' key relievers threw significant pitch counts or at all on Thursday. So the Cubs have the bullpen advantage. They are great against left-handed pitchers, and they have Marcus Stroman on the mound, who has been great early on, pretty much like he was at his peak. His 2.17 ERA will obviously come down. His FIP is in his xFIP, his xERA is in the mid threes, but his ground ball rate's up to his 2018 peak. He's keeping the ball on the ground about 60% of the time. The Cubs defense is improved behind him. The Marlins offense is nothing to be too afraid of here. So I really like the Cubs here against the left-handed pitcher with the bullpen advantage with Stroman on the mound -115. I would bet them at -120 or better.
Any concern with the home runs Stroman allowed last start, or is that just kind of a one-off? Dodgers are a good team.
Yeah, I mean, it was also a Wrigley Field. We're going to Lone Depot tonight, where it's more of a pitcher-friendly park.
Sure.
Obviously, he's going to allow his share of homers, especially to a team like the Dodgers. But as long as he's keeping the ball on the ground around 60% of the time, you saw the last couple of years that ground ball rate was in the mid 50s, maybe even low 50s. And for a pitcher like Stroman, keeping the ball on the ground is so important. So to see it back up in the 60% range is very key to success for him.
Okay, very good. And as Colin highlighted, the Marlins are bottom half of the league in bullpen ERA. I'm just looking at bullpen ERA, 4.64 bullpen ERA for the Miami Marlins, who the Cubs face tonight in Miami. Let's move on to Fade the Public. And for those of you that don't have one already, we encourage you to get yourself a pro account at Action Network. It gives you competitive edges. You can look at our pro models that give edges on props. You could also find out where money and bets are coming in on certain sides, certain teams. And one team that jumps out to us, no shocker, the Tampa Bay Rays. Once again, they are getting a boatload of cash against the Chicago White Sox. 87% of the bets, 95% of the dollars on this game coming in on the Rays. So they stumble, and stumble is really probably too strong. They're 21-5. They lose 2 games to Houston. Then they score 14 runs at the Chicago White Sox. Charlie, I'm going to go to Colin first on this because it's perfect. We're going to talk about fading the public. And what do you know? The White Sox are being disrespected, or is the public correct?
See, I think I was set up here. You guys invite me back on to Payoff Pitch just to talk about how pathetic and terrible my Chicago White Sox are. Sorry. To answer the question, long answer short, no, I'm not betting the White Sox tonight. I'm staying away from this game. To be fair, Lucas Giolito's been a lot better this season. His last 3 starts have been good. He gave up a couple of long balls to these Rays last time out in Tampa, but he had 6 shutout against Philadelphia. He had 6 innings with just 1 earned run and 7 strikeouts against Minnesota. I do think Giolito is going to be get to the point where you're going to want to start backing him, especially when he's an underdog. I also think the White Sox in general, if we're just talking about this in an unbiased way, which is really difficult for me to do, are going to be a team, given their struggles, that they can't play this poorly all season long. There's going to be a time when we're going to find value in the White Sox. Today is not that day. Zach Eflin is much improved this year, changed up his pitch mix. Anytime the Rays sign a veteran pitcher to a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal, I take notice. Eflin has been very good this year, aside from a little bit of some missed time with injury. So I'm not interested in fading him, especially when the White Sox are in their worst split, especially when they're still missing Tim Anderson, Yoan Moncada. I could go on and on. If you want to hear the rant that was given to an ESPN sports talk radio show about the White Sox, that was about 6 minutes long. I tweeted that out the other day, and it was fantastic. That basically sums up my feeling on the White Sox. But for today, it is a hard pass. If anything, I'm looking at the under in that game because Giolito's been better, because Eflin has the White Sox number. So I like the under in that game. But as far as picking a side, fading the public or siding with the public, staying away.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm glad you brought up Giolito because his name has been, Colin, you remember being on our podcast all of last year. Like that was one of Zerillo's
He was really mean to him.
fades.
Yeah.
He was really mean to him.
What'd you just say?
I
He was
said
really
Zarilla
mean to
was
him.
really mean to my boy Giolito all season last year.
Yeah.
He was battling COVID. Come on.
Yeah. Well, he was not great against the Rays in his last start on April 23rd. 2 home runs, 4 earned. He did go 7 innings, 102 pitches, 14 fly ball outs. Charlie, what do you think with the Rays? And then I guess the other thing too is the number. It's just a short plus number here on Chicago. So I'm curious if you'd rather lay the juice with Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Tampa or anything as far as a side goes. It's just at this point, I'd rather eat glass than bet on the White Sox for a third straight day. I did it the last 2 days, and they've gotten and hurt me both times. It was with Michael Kopech against Blue Jays got blown up, and then last night Dylan Cease got erased by the Rays. I do like Collins under lean. I think I might play that. You can follow me in the app and see if I end up playing that because Eflin has been surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, extremely solid. Like Colin said, 288 expected ERA, a 224 expected batting average. Giolito, a lot better than usual, aside from the one start that I backed him against Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. But I will say, and just to kind of wrap up my point, because I'm kind of echoing everything Colin said, the best line from that, and you have to go watch this rant if you haven't watched it. The quote, the Bears needed 6 months to get 11 games under 500. We needed 3 weeks about the White Sox. They are embarrassingly bad this far. I don't know if I can bet them, or maybe I need to wait a couple weeks before things kind of fall down to earth. I mean, they've been through injuries, but that lineup is horrendous, and that bullpen and starting rotation is starting to give me nightmares as I continue to bet them and lose money. They feel like my Reds of last year at this point.
I never ever thought of it that way. I haven't seen this rant that you're talking about, but wow. And in particular, when it comes to the Chicago Bears, I know we're a baseball podcast, but their last win was against the Patriots on Monday Night Football. So yeah, that bothers me a little bit, but yeah, the White Sox have one up them. They've actually more than one up them. It's been tough for Colin.
It's bad.
Or Colin, huh? You're right. We get him back on the podcast and we're saying, yep, let's talk about the White Sox. They're being significantly underrated tonight. Let's go to our favorite underdog plays. Colin, I'll start with you on this because you've got a fascinating stat on the New York Yankees sitting at plus 170. Can you explain to the folks that you see Yankees plus 170? When have we had a number like this before?
Yeah, I saw the Yankees were facing Jacob deGrom today, and I saw that they were plus 170. And in my mind, this was kind of an auto bet because how often are you going to find the Yankees at plus 170 or better? I don't care who they're facing. And so I decided to look using Actions Pro Tools, their systems, and I looked at games where the Yankees have been plus 170 underdogs or longer. This is the first time since April of 2019. I believe it was against the Astros. They lost that game outright. However, going back to 2005, so we're talking 17 plus years here, this will only be the 25th time that they have been underdogs of plus 170 or longer, assuming this line closes at 170 or longer. They're 9-15 in the previous 24 games. It's actually a positive ROI, slightly positive ROI, 8.8% return on interest on the Yankees if you had bet them every time they have been plus 170 or longer over the last 18 years. So the point is, you're not going to get a chance like this very often. I know Jacob deGrom is Jacob deGrom, but the Yankees are plus 170, and the Yankees are the Yankees. This just seems like one of those very rare instances where you can bet a team as good as the Yankees at this long of odds. Jacob deGrom is awesome. Clark Schmidt has struggled. I get it, but Schmidt seemed to right the ship a little bit last time out against Toronto. He went 5 2/3. Gave up a couple of unearned runs, had 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. And I like Schmidt here to at least keep it close with deGrom through the first half of the game. And we know deGrom's not going long. That's kind of the Yankee side of the argument here, is that even if deGrom throws a perfect game through 5 innings, he's going to get pulled after 5 or 6 innings. And then we turn things over to the bullpen. Texas's bullpen has been a train wreck of late. Blew several big leads against Cincinnati over the last couple of days. They obviously lost outright to Garrett Cole and the Yankees last night. Didn't use a lot of key relievers there. I think they threw Jose Leclerc for an inning. but the Yankees have a huge advantage in the bullpen. So I like Schmidt to keep it close. This game's turned over to the bullpen. The Yankees do their thing. Plus 170 or better is insanely good value on a team as strong as the Yankees.
And you're right. Burke went 2, and then Leclerc went 1 inning for the Rangers. And the Yankees, Cole went 6 2/3. King was the only guy who had to come out of the pen for them. So you've got, talking about bullpen edges, there's it's not a great edge, but helpful to say the least. And if DeGrom has a short leash, looking at the first 5 number, Rangers minus 230, Yankees plus 186. So I think your overall point, using that first 5 line, the drop off probably isn't as significant as it should be. I think is your overall point, right? The fact that they're a plus 170 is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. I think that, I mean, there's obviously a reason DeGrom is going to be favored this strongly over Schmidt, but for the full game, the Yankees just have so many other advantages that if Schmidt can just keep the Yankees in the ball game with DeGrom until the starters leave the game, then we've got great EV.
All right, excellent. Yankees on the money line tonight for Colin. Full game, of course, with DeGrom on the mound for the Texas Rangers. Charlie, your favorite underdog play for the evening?
Yeah, I will say the Yankee game, I have no idea what to do, and I feel like I'm in a spin zone every time I look. The Aaron Judge injury gives me some caution too, but I'm going to go with the Phillies here on the money line. Aaron Nola has been pretty inconsistent this far, and some people kind of saw it coming after last year. Some people a bit surprised. I think this is a good buy low spot on him. His velocity's down ever so slightly. I don't think it's I think it's being overstated just how much. It's only down 1 mile an hour on his fastball. His FIP, xFIP, and xERA are all in the low to mid 4s, while his actual ERA up in that mid 5 range. So he's going to be due for some positive regression. He's not been as bad as everyone thinks. You see all the media just how bad he's been, or quote how bad he's been. It's really just because his strikeout rate has dipped below 20%, but he's still limiting hard hit rate. He's still getting chases. It's only a matter of time before he kind of falls down to earth. I like the opportunity here against the Astros. Yordan Alvarez probably back in the lineup tonight, but if he misses, that's another 10 cents that gets knocked off this plus 130 price. This Houston offense, you want to fade them early before they get fully healthy. Altuve, Brantley, they're still out. Yordan battling that injury. Who knows how he'll come back? The bottom of the order is pretty bad. So at this point, you want to look to fade them at times. That's what I've been doing throughout the season, just picking my spots. And Framber Valdez, it's a perfect time to fade him. A little buy low, sell high, Nola Valdez, a 2.25 ERA. That's hiding some glaring issues, an expected ERA near 4.2. He ranks in the bottom 11% of all pitchers in hard hit rate, 50%. So 50% of the ball being put in play is being hit hard. So that's very concerning for me. The Philadelphia, as far as bats go, they're playing a lot better as of late, and they're in their positive split. All last year we talked about how good they are against left-handed pitching. Well, they're better. They're getting the left-handed pitcher tonight, and I think they're going to win this game. So plus 130, it's good value for me. I'd back it all the way down to about that plus 120 mark.
All righty. Hey, just as an aside, the Phillies have won 5 of 6, 7 of 10. Should I be concerned about their win total under? Has this team figured it out to a degree?
I think they're pretty much an average ball club. I think it was only a matter of time before they started hitting well, right? Like, we're not going to watch Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos all hit like 220 throughout the entire season. I think it was only a matter of time before things even out. They're about a 500 ball club.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I was hoping they would wait a little longer and go to Memorial Day with them really sliding. But yeah, they spent some money on guys for sure, like Turner.
You only get that with the White Sox. The White Sox are the only team that's sliding under their win total.
It's true. Hey, I got money on it too. I'm right there with everyone else.
Oh, you took the White Sox under?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
It's smart fan,
All right, let's do. We had a couple more. You guys have a couple more you want to give out here quickly, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll go to Charlie first, then Colin to wrap it up.
Cool. Yeah. Orioles money line minus 125 to minus 135. Buy a low spot in Grayson Rodriguez. He just threw 5 shutout against Detroit last time. I think this is a good spot to keep backing him. You're going to get him at a cheap number right now. The Orioles are good, and everyone knows that now, and I don't think you got to take them lightly. It's a cheap number here, especially with Grayson Rodriguez, his xFIP and FIP around that like mid 3 range, so he's underperforming. according to what he's actually doing right now. And he's got a 380 BABIP, so he's getting BABIP to death. He's going to have positive light. He's got incredible stuff. And on the other side, I think this is a good pitch, a good time to fade Eduardo Rodriguez. Last 21 innings, he's given up just 1 run, including just dominating the Orioles his last time out. But his xFIP's up at 380 and his BABIP is down at 220. So these are like just numbers that show that, hey, maybe he's due for some negative regression. Yeah, I think so. Baltimore, they're the 7th ranked offense against left-handed pitching. And WRC plus, WOBA, and ISO. They're 4th in walk rate, which Rodriguez has had issues in the past. He hasn't this season, but I think that this is one of those cases where you're getting the Orioles at a short favorite number. It should be a little bit longer. We look at this number maybe in a couple of months from now. It's near 140, 150, even on the road. Rodriguez, he's got an 82.6% left on base rate too. So just completely overperforming all of his average mean numbers. So I like the chances here of Grayson Rodriguez. And then a couple props real quick before I hand it over to Colin. It's Rich Hill day. So I got a couple props to fade Rich Hill. I don't want to bet on the Nationals or Chad Kuhl, but Layton Thomas has crushed left-handed pitching this year, 417 average. He doesn't hit a lot of extra base hits, but I think it's worth a look here. He's in his positive split here. He's going to be at top of the lineup, so he's going to get 4 to 5 at-bats. Joey Meneses, over 1.5 total bases in 4 of his last 6. Swinging a hot bat after a slow start. Last year against left-handed pitching, he hit 366 with a 676 slugging and expected an extra base hits in nearly 50% of at-bats. So I think both those players have good matchups, so I would look toward one of them if you want to fade Rich Hill here. And Rich Hill, he's 6'9" expected ERA, 577 expected slugging. So he's wildly overperforming right now. It's only a matter of time before he falls down to earth. And then the last one, Byron Buxton, finally hitting better as of late. He's hitting right-handed pitching well, 270 average, a 492 slugging. 7 of his 17 hits have gone for extra bases, including 4 of his last 6. He's gone over 1.5 total bases. He's facing Jordan Lyles. You love to fade Jordan Lyles. 566 expected ERA, 12% barrel rate, 280 expected batting average, 500 expected slugging, bottom 3% in whiffs. Numbers just say fade him. Byron Buxton's the best bat and the most powerful one in this Minnesota lineup.
Yeah, watching the Pirates, I know they've had a phenomenal start to the year. I just had a thought there for a second. The likelihood of Mitch Keller and Rich Hill having great nights on back. Now, I realize it's the Nationals, but the likelihood of both of the way they've both pitched back-to-back, it's like, really? Like the Pirates are going to just continue to rattle off consecutive victories with both of those guys on the mound.
Mitch Keller's good. Mitch Keller is good. Brendan, he's legit. Like he's
been a lot better this year for sure.
But even last year there were signs, and then this year he put in the work in the offseason. Yeah. Mitch Keller is going to be a darling for us this year with plus money in the Pirates.
I'm in my feels right now, having Colin back. I'm just remembering guys that we were kind of getting on last year. Leave me alone.
Is Mitch Keller good? The greatest thread in the history of the internet, locked by the moderator after 5,000 pages of riveting debate.
And speaking of fading the public, Pirates are getting a lot of the cash and the tickets tonight against Washington on the road. Rich Hill.
He does have a 21.7% hard hit rate for Mitch Keller, just so you guys know.
Okay. All right.
Impressive stuff.
Well, the way it's going on the Friday slates, you're going to get Mitch Keller time. You'll have your Mitch Keller segment. Well, actually, no, it's Thursday. Well, maybe if an off day gets worked in, you'll have more Mitch Keller time.
Down the line.
For you to unleash and have your Mitch Keller moments here on Payoff Pitch. Colin's got a couple more, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. I want to touch on Orioles-Tigers real quick because Charlie talked about it. I considered the Tigers as an underdog play here because I'm a fan of what Eduardo Rodriguez has done, but I just can't do it, especially with the Orioles facing a lefty. I do, however, like the under in this game because I am a believer in E-Rod's kind of resurgence this year. And G-Rod on the other side, like Charlie said, dominated the Tigers, always looking for opportunities to fade the Tigers offense. So under 7.5, definitely something I'm going to be looking at there in Baltimore, Detroit. One of my favorite lines of the day, I considered this for best bet. It's almost like a too good to be true line. Like I'm like, what am I missing here? Is the Braves on the money line against the Mets tonight? Max Fried against David Peterson. Fried has been phenomenal this year. The Braves crush left-handed pitching. David Peterson has been terrible. Why the Braves are only minus 140 on the money line, I cannot figure out why. I'm going to be hammering the Braves tonight and be bemoaning myself when that bet somehow doesn't cash because I don't see how it's not going to. That's like one of the bigger starting pitching mismatches of the entire day. And the Braves, one of the World Series favorites, are only minus 140. I don't get it. I don't know if it's New York team steam or what, but yeah, love the Braves tonight. And then I'm betting the Mariners again. That this is just kind of a coin flip game against the Blue Jays. Luis Castillo has been one of my favorite pitchers to back this year. Manoah has been very helter-skelter. Never know which version of him you're going to get kind of on a start basis. But Castillo is the steady presence there. I like the Mariners on the money line there at minus 105. Also taking a stab at the under there. I think 9 is way too high considering you've got an inconsistent starting pitcher on one side of Manoah, and you've got an inconsistent offense on the other side in Seattle. So I think if Castillo does his thing, and if we get a good version of Manoah, this total is quite too high. So Mariners on the money line and under 9 in Seattle, Toronto.
Excellent. Very good.
Wait, I don't. Then this Mariners, man. I every time I bet them, I feel like they put up 2 runs, and I look at them every time. And I don't know what to do. This game, the Yankee game, this slate is just trying to mess with me. It's insane. I can't. I want to bet the Mariners. Will I bet the Mariners? Maybe. I probably will now that Colin's on it. They just mess. The inconsistency is so. They'll put up 10 runs one night and 1 run the next. It's aggravating.
Just Charlie,
Sorry.
just then you know what? Then just don't bet them and vindicate yourself even more watching Will Levis fall in the second round tonight in the draft, and that'll entertain
exactly.
You. Yeah,
exactly. I was enjoying that the entire day yesterday.
Okay, there you go. We're mixing this NFL draft talk. Go find Charlie on social media. He nailed the Levis falling, or he urged GMs to stay away from Will Levis, and they listened to Charlie DiSturco, and they listened to us. Hopefully, you listened carefully here on Payoff Pitch for today's picks on the slate. Thanks to Colin Whitchurch for sliding in on this Friday. He's our Action Network senior editor. You can find him at actionnetwork.com in the app. Same goes for Charlie. I'm Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for tuning in. We're back on Monday. We're also here Tuesday and Friday during the baseball season. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. See you next week.